My fellow Brits. Thank you, Tiz. My fellow beloved Brits. We need to talk. This is another unscripted rant from the rant chair, and it is very much a spur of the moment kind of video. I don't have all of the details yet. You probably don't have all of the details yet, but I just felt the need to do a quick rant video about the resignation of Sir Kier Starmer as the British Prime Minister, because I think there are a few instructive media lessons from this that need to be talked about. Number one, the Americanization of British media is bad for you. It's bad for you, it's bad for society, and it's bad for democracy. It's bad for British democracy, yes, but it continues to be bad for Western democracy across the board. What do I mean when I say the Americanization of British media? I mean the fact that when you look at the difference between our news media in particular, one of the great failings of the Fourth Estate in the American system is that it is and must be a for-profit business, because everything in America is and must be a for-profit business. If you can't make money from something, American capitalism doesn't incentivize you doing it because it's the right thing. That's a whole separate rant, but it's something that I feel very strongly about. Consider what my current government has done to things like public radio and public broadcasting. That's not an accident. That's by design. Number one, they don't like independent media. Number two, they don't like government. They don't think governments should exist in many cases. And what they really want is they want private industry to control everything. The same government that is defunding things like public broadcasting is also greenlighting the consolidation of media giants under, let's be blunt, oligarchs that support their regime. This is bad. So consolidation of media is one thing, privatization of media is another, but I also want to talk about structural media incentives. Something that I have witnessed in my lifetime is, in my opinion, again, a really, really lethal confusion of entertainment with politics. When your news business model is for profit, it lives and dies by eyeballs on it, by attention. If you don't get attention, your business literally dies, you don't make a profit, and in the American system, what good are you? So when things like social media have come to the fore and hyperscaled human attention and divided human attention and shortened human attention spans, everything became about spectacle. Which is why someone like Donald Trump, a literal reality TV star, could become president. Because politics and its coverage critically, i.e. the way most human beings engage with it, became about spectacle. In the United States, our media systems, which are for profit and therefore demand attention, rewards spectacle and rewards chaos and rewards a sort of horse race style coverage, a gossip entertainment and media style coverage. That's what gets views. That's what creates strong feelings, positive and more importantly negative. That's what drives quote unquote engagement on social media, likes, comments, views, and sharing. And when social media came in and completely decimated traditional publishing and media outlets, including news media, the news media responded by catering to a social media style environment that incentivized those kinds of behaviors. Because social media is in of itself an American media invention, that means that, again, American style philosophies and incentive structures and business model structures all got coded in at the jump. And as that proliferated out through the world, it influenced how other nations began to consume their media, and therefore how other nations began to construct their media. Watching what has happened to Sir Kier Starmer has been fascinating because, I'm going to be blunt, he's kind of like Joe Biden. And what happened to Joe Biden? Joe Biden was an imperfect politician. He was an imperfect politician to me, in that he was not as far left as I would wish him to have been. And yet his government did some of the most policy forward, progressive kind of style governance in my lifetime. But because he was terrible at communications and marketing, because his government was terrible at messaging, he quite literally left an important space for his enemies to construct messaging for him. That was the lesson that I think Labour and Sir Kier Starmer's government really needed to take from Biden's defeat. And they didn't. If you do not do your own messaging, your enemies will do it for you. And they did. Again, this is very off the cuff. This is very at time of recording. But what I noticed yesterday in the lead up to Sir Kier Starmer announcing that he would be standing down as Prime Minister was news media outlets not actually doing a lot of independent reporting or verification, but reporting on one another's rumors. Someone heard that someone heard that someone heard. And that rumor mill kept being repeated and amplified. But I did not, at least yesterday and thus far this morning, see what I would call robust journalistic reportage confirming any of this whisper campaign. I'm inherently suspicious of that because we know that we live in an age of amplification from social media. And we also know, we have seen this literally in the last week in British media, that the Prime Minister has been personally targeted for acts of violence through social media influence and networks, that there were, I think, bombing attempts on his safety. And we also know, because again, this happened in the last week and a half, that things like the race riots, which were whipped up in Belfast, were promoted and artificially amplified by far-right and literal neo-Nazi groups. We know that bad actors are doing this. We know that social media is not reality. And yet, corporate media in America and structural media in Britain has been incentivized for the past 15 years to treat social media as if it's reality. And I'd argue that absolutely contributed to the Brexit campaign. Not that there weren't legitimate grievances or political messages underpinning that, but I'm going to stand by it. The media campaign and the social media campaign around the Brexit referendum was hugely significant. Social media has been intrinsic to the rise of Donald Trump, who first rose to political prominence because he was a prolific Twitter user and used it to promote conspiracy theories. And I'd argue now, at least from where I sit with this being breaking news, that social media Sturm-und-Drang was absolutely a component of this. When you step back from a lot of people whispering about Sir Kier Starmer's potential resignation on social media, and that being amplified in structural media, what has actually happened that led to this? The Labour Party didn't lose a local election. They won a local election. And somehow this was spun into a narrative that Sir Kier Starmer / the Labour Party have lost the mandate to govern. Factually speaking, like facts on the ground, that's legitimately bonkers. And yet, that is the story that has been spun online and in structural media, which structurally incentivizes horse race coverage and gossip coverage and spectacle. It incentivizes spectacle. Whatever you think of Sir Kier Starmer, and again, I am not an unbiased observer. I think he's done a lot of good things for the country. I do think he's been a stabilizing force. He kept Britain out of the Iran war, which I would argue would be nothing but good. He has supported the war in Ukraine against Russia as the aggressor. I think that this is good too. He's done a lot of things that I disagree with. I think he is probably a centrist politician at heart because most sober-minded Democratic politicians probably are more centrist at heart. I don't fault them for that because I think it probably makes for good and stable governance, even if it doesn't align with my personal politics. I would strongly prefer a center-left politician being in charge than anyone that benefits from reform. But that's probably what we're going to get, because who benefits if Sir Kier Starmer leaves office, which he's now doing? Reform does, even though they have just lost a major election And when they have won elections recently, like within the last couple of months, they have shown themselves to be horrifically inept at governing because they're only about messaging. They are only about whipping up grievance and resentment for local governments and minorities. They are not good at doing the work of sober-minded government. And in fact, a bunch of them keep quitting because they're so bad at it. Reform is almost entirely a PR campaign, not a political project. The political project that undermines it is inherently anti-Western democracy. And if you disagree with me, argue with the wall. Sir Kier Starmer and his government are inherently mistrustful of big tech in recent times. Palantir might be losing major government contracts, which I think is a good thing for all of the reasons that I've gone into in previous videos. Again, as I said, he kept Britain out of the Iran war, which I think is only a good thing. He's supported Ukraine in its fight against Russia, which is good, I think, both for Britain and for Europe's wider safety. He has been judicious in maintaining the special relationship between the UK and the US, something that I have a lot of nuanced takes on as an American immigrant in the UK. Like, he's done a lot of things wrong, but he's also done a lot of things right. And again, if you were just to look at the objective stats about NHS wait times or any of the other unsexy practical things about government, I'd say that they're trending in the right direction. And yet, that doesn't make for good media, does it? I legitimately kind of feel bad for Sir Kier Starmer the same way that I do for Joe Biden, in that I think that they are both quietly competent, old school politicians who genuinely believe in the role of quietly competent government. And I wish we lived in that age. You know, they would be the right politicians for that age. But that's not the age we live in. We live in an age of spectacle. It's not ancient Greece, it's ancient Rome. And everybody's baying for the Colosseum, not properly understanding that we're the gladiators, babes. Anyway, I'm so frustrated. I'm so frustrated to see an imperfect but broadly competent and broadly progressive politician make all of the wrong decisions. When you try to cater to the far right, you will never win them over because our political projects are inherently antagonistic towards one another. The moment you give the far right an inch, they will literally move the goalposts again. That's what they do. This is their stated media strategy. Like, legitimately, there have been books written on this as a media strategy and the shifting of the Overton window. And you don't have to agree with my leftist politics, in my opinion, to at least be aware of this as a tactic. If you are more conservative yourself, if you are more centrist leaning, I'm probably not going to change your mind, but I do need you to be aware, again, as always, of the fellow travelers that you swim with and the media strategies that they deploy and to what ends. Sir Kier Starmer being ousted as Prime Minister does not benefit Labour. And it doesn't benefit leftist or even center-left politics in Britain. It benefits Reform, who are incompetent and incapable, and yet continue to get the lion's share of media coverage because they do the thing that they know will get them attention, which is to create spectacle. And if you value spectacle over competence, you're doing fascism, babes. Fascism is all about spectacle. It's all about spectacle for the majority and rule by the few. It's inherently oligarchic. It's inherently anti-democratic. Oh, thanks, Tizzy. You want to come back and comfort me? I appreciate you. Again, who benefits from Sir Kier Starmer leaving? Farage and Reform benefit. Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg and Peter Thiel benefit because their platforms have been losing UK government support, and maybe they have a chance to readjust things. Fossil fuel industries benefit because, imperfect as it was, Labour supported a diversified approach to energy, which I think we badly need. If you don't believe in it for climate change reasons, I probably can't convince you that you're wrong, but do look at what's happened when the oil supply gets turned off in another corner of the world, and consider how maybe just diversification might be good for your pocketbook for other reasons. Just Think about it. Russia benefits. Netanyahu benefits. Anti-democratic projects benefit. The literal neo-Nazi groups who use social media to incentivize race riots to look like the government was less stable than it was benefit. The only people that this benefits are known bad actors, and I am inherently suspicious of anyone who supports it, and that includes people in the Labour Party. If you prioritize your own political career over government stability in a time of rising fascism and active war, I just have a hard time seeing you as a patriot. And, to stay in my wheelhouse of media and messaging, I really, really wish and I need left-leaning, including center-left-leaning politicians to take a lesson of what Zoran Mandani is doing in New York. What he is doing is successfully messaging about the unsexy but practical work of government. People could and probably can make the case that this isn't what a mayor of New York should be doing with his time, making videos about snow removal or pothole filling. But I'd argue that's the age that we live in, where if people don't remember or understand the practical realities of what good government looks like, we need politicians who are able to do the work of reminding them. Sir Kier Starmer and Joe Biden's major failings as politicians were not their policies, even if I thought they weren't perfect. They were the fact that they were not good at communicating their wins. So whatever happens next in British politics, I need to be watching as an immigrant, God knows, trying to keep up with immigration news and its impact on me and my life is a full-time job. But we need better messengers for the kinds of politics that we want to see. I don't know if we're going to get it. The one thing that everybody who hangs out in my corner of the internet can or should be thinking about is the kind of media that you prioritize and incentivize right now. You need to think about how it's influenced, who benefits from it, not in a conspiratorial thinking kind of way. I am very, very careful. Let a fly in my house. I am very, very careful and deliberate to avoid conspiratorial thinking. I think it's, again, very damaging to democracy, and more often than not is part of that whole business of spectacle that I mentioned. Not always, but enough that we should be inherently mistrustful. I'm not being conspiratorial when I say this. We need to consider who benefits from this political instability in the UK, and we need to push for better media that interrogates things like the reality of social media chatter versus the reality of the voting public. We need to consider how much of our media is just talking heads talking to or about one another versus actually what's going on in your local boroughs or your local voting areas. I appreciate the irony of me saying this on a platform like this, but social media is not reality. Work very, very hard to distinguish the difference, because social media is structurally incentivized to cater to and to create spectacle. That's what it does. You can enjoy it, you can use it, but you need to do so in informed ways and not fall into the trap of being turned into an audience against your will or against your knowledge. You must stay informed, and you must prioritize good governance over spectacle, even when all of the structural incentives are against us to do so. I might need to do some more content on this. I actually messaged Misty. I'm like, we need to do like a weekly check-in of what's going on across both of our nations. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, what a bonkers time to be alive when winning an election loses you power. Like, I don't know what I can call that except anti-democratic. Stay vigilant about your media, kittens. Let's check in again soon. Me and Tizzy need to go make tea to deal with our feelings.